The Lapland War was fought between Finland and Germany from September 1944 to April 1945 in Finland's northernmost Lapland province. While the Finns saw this as a separate conflict, much like the Continuation War, German forces considered their actions to be part of the Second World War. A peculiarity of the war was that the Finnish army was forced to demobilize their forces while at the same time fighting to force the German army to leave Finland. German forces retreated to Norway, and Finland managed to uphold its obligations under the Moscow Armistice, although it remained formally at war with the Soviet Union, the United Kingdom and the British Dominions until the formal conclusion of the Continuation War was ratified by the 1947 Paris Peace Treaty. Prelude: Germany and Finland had been at war with the Soviet Union since June 1941, cooperating closely in the Continuation War. However, as early as the summer of 1943, the German High Command began making plans for the eventuality that Finland might make a separate peace agreement with the Soviet Union. The Germans planned to withdraw their forces northward in order to shield the nickel mines near Petsamo. During the winter of 1943–1944, the Germans improved the roads from northern Norway to northern Finland by extensive use of prisoner-of-war labor in certain areas. Casualties among these POWs were high, in part because many of them had been captured in southern Europe and were still in summer uniform. In addition, the Germans surveyed defensive positions and made plans to evacuate as much material as possible from the region and made meticulous preparations for withdrawing their forces. On the 9th of April 1944, the German withdrawal was named Operation Berke. In June 1944, the Germans started actively constructing fortifications against an enemy advance from the south. The accidental death of General Oberst Eduard Dietl on 23 June 1944 brought General Oberst Lothar Rendulic to the command of the 20th Mountain Army. A change of Finnish leadership in early August 1944 led the Germans to believe that Finland would attempt to achieve a separate agreement with the Soviet Union. The Finnish announcement of the ceasefire triggered frantic efforts in the German 20th Mountain Army, which immediately started Operation Berke and other material evacuations from Finland. Large amounts of materiel were evacuated from southern Finland and harsh punishments were set for any hindering of the withdrawal. Finnish forces, which included the 3rd, 6th, and 11th Divisions, the Armoured Division as well as the 15th and Border Jaeger Brigades, were moved to face the Germans. Baltic. On the 2nd of September 1944, after the Finns informed the Germans of the ceasefire between Finland and the Soviet Union, the Germans started seizing Finnish shipping. However, since this action resulted in a Finnish decision to not allow ships to sail from Finland to Germany, and nearly doomed the material evacuations of Operation Berke, it was rescinded. After the order was called off, the Finns, in turn, allowed Finnish tonnage to be used to hasten the German evacuations. The first German naval mines were laid in Finnish seaways on 14 September 1944, allegedly for use against Soviet shipping. Though since Finland and Germany were not yet in open conflict at the time, the Germans warned the Finns of their intent. On 15 September 1944, the German Navy attempted to seize the island of Hogland in Operation Tanner Ost. This immediately prompted the Finns to remove their shipping from the joint evacuation operation. The last German convoy departed from Kemi on 21 September 1944 and was escorted by both submarines and in addition by German cruisers. After the landing attempt, a Finnish coastal artillery fort prevented German net layers from passing into the Baltic Sea at Uto on 15 September, as they had been ordered to intern the German forces. However, on the 16th of September, a German naval detachment consisting of the heavy cruiser Prinz Eugen escorted by 5 destroyers, arrived at Uto. The German cruiser stayed out of range of the Finnish 152mm guns and threatened to open fire with its artillery unless the Finns allowed the German net layers to pass. In order to avoid bloodshed, the Finns allowed the net layers to pass. A Finnish landing operation started on the 30th of September 1944 when 3 transport ships without any escorts departed from Oulu towards Tornio. They arrived on the 1st of October and managed to disembark their troops without any interference. A second wave of 4 ships arrived on the 2nd of October and a third wave, 3 ships strong, managed to disembark largely without trouble, with only a single ship being lightly damaged by German dive bombers. On the 4th of October, bad weather prevented Finnish air cover from reaching Tornio, which left the 4th landing wave vulnerable to German Stuka dive bombers, which scored several hits, sinking SS Boraix and SS Maininki alongside the pier. The 5th wave on the 5th of October suffered only light shrapnel damage despite being both shelled from shore and bombed. The first Finnish naval vessels Hämeenmaa, Uusimaa, VMV-15 and VMV-16 arrived with the 6th wave just in time to witness German Focke-Wulf FW-200 Condor bombers attacking the shipping at Tornio with Henschel H's 293 glide bombs without results. Arrival of naval assets made it possible for the Finns to safely disembark heavy equipment, which played an important role during the Battle of Tornio. Sailors on Finnish ships in German-held ports, including Norway, were interned, and German submarines sank several Finnish civilian vessels. German submarines also had some success against Finnish military vessels, including the sinking of the Mainlay Luhi. The most dire result of Finland concluding the Moscow armistice with the Soviet Union was that now Soviet naval forces could circumvent the existing German naval mine barriers located on the Gulf of Finland by using the Finnish coastal seaways. This allowed Soviet submarines now based in the Finnish archipelago to gain early access to the German shipping in the southern Baltic Sea. Lapland. The ceasefire agreement between Finland and the Soviet Union contained requirements that the Finns break diplomatic ties with Germany and publicly demand the withdrawal of all German troops from Finland by the 15th of September 1944. Any troops remaining after the deadline were to be disarmed and handed over to the Soviet Union. Even with the massive efforts of the Germans in Operation Berka, this proved impossible, with the Finns estimating it would take the Germans 3 months to fully evacuate. The task was further complicated by the Soviet demand that the major part of Finland's armed forces be demobilized, even as they attempted to conduct a military campaign against the Germans. With the exception of the inhabitants of the Tornio area, most of the civilian population of Lapland was evacuated to Sweden and southern Finland. The evacuation was carried out as a cooperative effort between the German military and Finnish authorities prior to the start of hostilities. Autumn maneuvers, as the Finns wanted to avoid devastation to their country, and the Germans wished to avoid hostilities. Both sides wanted the evacuation to be performed as smoothly as possible. By the 15th of September 1944, a secret agreement had been reached by which the Germans would make their withdrawal timetable known to the Finns, who would then allow the Germans to destroy roads, railroads and bridges. In practice, friction soon arose both from the destruction caused by the Germans and from the pressure exerted on the Finns by the Soviets. And there were several incidents between the armies. The Finns deployed their 3rd Division, 11th Division, and 15th Brigade to the coastal area, the 6th and the armoured divisions to Pudasjärvi, and the Border Jaeger Brigade to the eastern part of the country. Initial clashes. The first open violence between Finnish forces and the 20th Mountain Army took place 20 kilometers southwest of Pudasjärvi, at around 800 on 28 September 1944. When Finnish advance units first issued a surrender demand, then opened fire on a small German rearguard contingent. This took the Germans by surprise, as the Finns had previously agreed to warn them should they be forced to take hostile action against them. After the incident, partial contact was re-established. The Germans told the Finns they had no interest in fighting them, but would not surrender. The next incident took place on 29 September at a bridge crossing the Olhava River between Kemi and Oulu. Finnish troops, who had been ordered to take the bridge intact, were attempting to disarm explosives rigged to the bridge when the Germans detonated them, demolishing the bridge and killing the Finns' company commander, among others. On 30 September the Finns attempted to encircle the Germans at Pudasjärvi by way of flanking movements through the forests, and managed to cut the road leading north. By then, however, the bulk of the German force at Pudasjärvi had already left, leaving behind only a small detachment which, after warning the Finns, blew up a munitions dump. Fighting intensified on 1 October 1944, when the Finns launched a risky seaborne invasion near Tornio, on the border with Sweden. The landing had originally been planned as a diversionary raid, with the main assault to take place at Kemi, where the Finnish battalion-sized detachment Pennanen was already in control of the important industrial facilities on the island of Agios. Various considerations, including a far stronger German garrison at Kemi, already alerted by local attacks, made the Finns change the target to Reuter. The Finns initially landed the 11th Infantry Regiment, which, together with a Civic Guard-led uprising at Tornio, managed to secure both the port and most of the town, as well as the important bridges over the Torn River. However, the attack soon bogged down due to disorganization, some of it caused by alcohol looted from German supply depots, and stiffening resistance. During the ensuing Battle of Tornio, the Germans fought hard to retake the town, as it formed an important transportation link between the two roads running parallel to the Kemijoki and Tornionjoki rivers. Their forces initially consisted of Division Krautler and were later reinforced with an armoured company, 2 infantry battalions, and the machine gun ski brigade Finland. The Finns reinforced their troops with 2 infantry regiments and managed to hold the area, beating back several German counterattacks. Heavy combat lasted for a week, until the 8th of October 1944, when the Germans were finally forced to withdraw. Meanwhile, Finnish troops were advancing overland from Oulu towards Kemi, with the 15th Brigade making slow progress even in the face of meagre German resistance. Their advance was hampered by the efficient destruction of roads and bridges by the withdrawing Germans, as well as a lack of fighting spirit in both Finnish troops and their leaders. The Finns attacked Kemi on 7 October 1944, attempting to encircle the Germans with a frontal attack by the 15th Brigade and an attack from the rear by Detachment Pennanen. Strong German resistance, civilians in the area, and looted alcohol prevented the Finns from fully succeeding in trapping all the Germans. Though Finnish forces took several hundred prisoners, they failed to prevent the Germans from demolishing the important bridges over the Kemijoki River once they began their withdrawal on 8 October. Further action in the Lapland War as Allied war efforts against Germany continued. The leadership of the 20th Mountain Army, as well as the OKW, came to believe it would be perilous to maintain positions in Lapland and in northern Norway east of Lingen, and began preparations for withdrawal. After long delays, Hitler accepted the proposal on 4 October 1944, and it was codenamed Operation Nordlicht on 6 October 1944. Instead of a gradual withdrawal from southern Lapland into fortified positions further to the north while evacuating all material, As in Operation Berka, Operation Nordlicht called for a rapid and strictly organized withdrawal directly behind Lyngen Fjord in Norway, while under pressure from harassing enemy forces. As the Germans withdrew, movement was mostly limited to the immediate vicinity of Lapland's three main roads, which constricted military activities considerably. In general, the actions followed a pattern in which advancing Finnish units would encounter German rearguards and attempt to flank them on foot, the destroyed road network preventing them from bringing up artillery and other heavy weapons. As Finnish riflemen slowly picked their way through the dense woods and marshland, the motorized German units would simply drive away and take up positions further down the road. Finnish forces began pursuing the Germans. The Finnish 11th Division advanced north from Tornio on the road running along the Torn River, while the 3rd Division marched from Kemi towards Rovaniemi. After the 6th and the armoured divisions linked up at Pudasjärvi, they advanced northward, first towards Rannier and then to Rovaniemi. The Border Jaeger Brigade moved north along the eastern border, depositing border guards as it advanced. Due to the destruction of the road network, the Finns were forced to use combat troops for repair work. At times, for example, the entire 15th Brigade was committed to road construction. Finnish forces advancing from Kemi towards Rovaniemi did not see any real action, as Finnish troops on foot were not able to keep up with withdrawing motorized German units. However, on the road leading from Rannier towards Rovaniemi there were several small battles, first at Elimar, then Kivitaival, then Rovaniemi. North of Rovaniemi the Finns encountered heavily fortified German Schutzwall positions at Tankavaara, on the road running along the Torn and Muonio rivers. The German withdrawal went so smoothly that there was no fighting until the Finnish 11th Division reached the village of Muonio. At Elimar, on the 7th of October, the Finns captured documents detailing German positions, forcing them to fight a delaying action off their preset timetable. However, as the forces were roughly even numerically, the Finnish lack of heavy weapons, and exhaustion from long marches, prevented the Finnish Jaeger Brigade from trapping the defending German 218th Mountain Regiment before it received permission to withdraw. On the 9th of October, at Kivitaival on the 13th of October the tables were turned and only a fortuitous withdrawal of the 218th Mountain Regiment saved the Finnish 33rd Infantry Regiment from being severely mauled. The German withdrawal allowed the Finns to surround one of the delaying battalions, but the German 218th Mountain Regiment returned and managed to rescue the stranded battalion. The first Finnish units reaching the vicinity of Rovaniemi were components of the Jaeger Brigade advancing from Rannier on the 14th of October. The Germans repelled Finnish attempts to capture the last intact bridge over the Kemijoki River and then left the mostly demolished town to the Finns. On the 16th of October 1944, Finnish demobilization and difficult supply routes began to take their toll, and at Tankavaara barely 4 battalions of the Finnish Jaeger Brigade attempted, unsuccessfully, to dislodge the German 169th Infantry Division, 12 battalions strong, entrenched in prepared fortifications. Finnish forces first reached the area on the 26th of October but gained ground only on the 1st of November, when the Germans withdrew further to the north. At Muonio, on the 26th of October, the German Kampfgruppe Resk, 4 battalions, and the 6th SS Mountain Division Nord again had numerical and material superiority in the form of artillery and armor support. The Finnish plan had been to prevent the SS Mountain Division, marching from the direction of Kittilä, from reaching Muonio, and thereby trap it. However, the delaying actions of Kampfgruppe Resk and the destruction of the road network made it impossible for the Finns to reach Muonio before the SS Mountain Division. German retreat to Norway. For most practical purposes, the war in Lapland ended in early November 1944. In northeastern Lapland, after holding the Finns off at Tankavaara, the Germans withdrew swiftly from Finland at Karagasniemi on 25 November 1944. The Finnish Jaeger Brigade pursuing them had by then been depleted in manpower due to demobilization. In northwest Lapland there were on 4 November only 4 battalions of Finnish troops left, and by February 1945 a mere 600 men. The Germans continued their withdrawal but stayed in fortified positions, first at Palojo and Shore in early November 1944, from where they moved further to positions along the Laticino River on 26 November. The German 7th Mountain Division held these positions until 10 January 1945, when northern Norway had been emptied and positions at Lyngen Fjord were manned. Some German positions defending Lyngen extended over the Finnish side of the border. However, no real activity took place before the Germans withdrew from Finland on 25 April 1945.